Greetings, friends. I am Vitaly Portnikov, a journalist and political analyst. During his speech at the Republican Party conference held last week, Donald Trump, the former president of the United States, stated that he is capable of ending wars with a single phone call. Of course, in this statement by the former American president, who is striving to return to the White House, there is something magical. That feeling which has always accompanied Donald Trump's political career. Faith not in a rational approach to politics, but indeed in a miracle that can only be performed by one person on earth. And that person is truly, absolutely Donald Trump. I will not reproach the former American president for such an approach to political realities and circumstances. After all, it is precisely this thoughtful and strategic approach that makes Donald Trump such an incredibly popular and widely supported candidate among many Republican supporters. This is undoubtedly, indeed, actually the transformation of politics into religion, and a political figure into an idol capable of performing biblical miracles. Nevertheless, it is extremely important to fully understand what exactly needs to be said in Donald Trump's crucial phone call for him to effectively end any of the numerous wars and conflicts that the world has faced and continues to face in recent years. And it immediately turns out that, in fact, the former president of the United States clearly has absolutely nothing to offer to those who had started these wars. Indeed. Donald Trump, the former US president, is unlikely to offer anything significant to Vladimir Putin. The president of the Russian Federation has initiated a full-scale war in an attempt to restore his former Soviet empire, rather than merely aiming to seize a small part of a neighboring country's territory. Of course, if you are not a political figure, you can live in illusions and believe that Crimea or other Ukrainian regions are needed by the Russian president due to his desire to expand his country's borders by a few more foreign territories, which is a notion that many people find highly controversial and widely debatable in various political discussions. But we have already seen that any occupied territory for the Russian president is indeed a strategic foothold for further advances, as we know. He absolutely desires much more than Crimea, Donbas, and indeed even Ukraine itself. He wants to restore the geographical and political borders that the Soviet Union had before 1991, including and thus. Vladimir Putin has indeed already called the abandonment of these borders the greatest geopolitical catastrophe of the 20th century. Truly. The most important thing is that the overwhelming majority of residents of the Russian Federation agree with him. The Russian president currently acts on their behalf in a similar manner, in the same way that Donald Trump acts on behalf of the Americans if he becomes the newly elected president of the United States. And this newly elected American president, who has just taken office, literally has empty pockets when engaging in discussions and negotiations with the president of Russia. If he doesn't possess a truly effective and powerful tool to exert significant pressure on the Russian leader, then he genuinely has absolutely nothing of value to offer. The pressure is limited due to the significant fact that Russia, as a global power, is prepared to support China. Does Donald Trump have something that is going to interest China in any significant way? Unlikely. As is well known, China undoubtedly perceives itself as the main competitor of the United States. And indeed, Donald Trump perceives China as the main and significant threat to the United States. Even if we assume that the American president will have effective tools and strategies to limit China's growing economic influence in the global market, this will only help the Chinese leadership understand that supporting Russia is crucial. Supporting Russia serves as a strategic move to counteract Western policies and maintain a balance of power, thereby exerting pressure on both the United States and Europe. And of course, any economic blow to China could increase the aggressiveness of this country and force its leadership to act not so much through economic means, but rather through military levers. For example, in the case of Taiwan or the United States allies in the Asia-Pacific region, such as Japan and South Korea. And another extremely very important and significant conflict for the American audience is the conflict in the Middle East region of the world. It is no secret that, undoubtedly, during his presidency, Donald Trump undeniably formulated a very clear, effective, and coherent concept. If he helps Israel reach agreements with its Arab neighbors, it indeed ensures peace in the Middle East region. And this same concept was adhered to by Trump's successor as president, Joseph Biden. During Donald Trump's years in the White House, Israel managed to reach agreements by signing historic agreements with several key regional neighbors, including the United Arab Emirates, and fostering new diplomatic and economic ties. Now, before the terrorist attack on Israel on October 7th last year, which resulted in significant devastation, there was talk and ongoing talks about possible diplomatic agreements with Saudi Arabia aimed at peace and stability. These agreements, which severely impacted the region, were severely disrupted by the attack on Israel. However, this attack clearly demonstrated another very important trend in the cybersecurity landscape. She demonstrated through her extensive research and analysis that the primary and most significant danger for Israel is not primarily associated with its neighboring Arab countries, but is more closely linked to the nation of Iran and the various proxy armies it supports and funds. Additionally, there are numerous terrorist organizations that are actively operating within the Palestinian territories and Lebanon, and again, these organizations in the Gaza Strip and in Lebanon enjoy widespread support from the local population, including various different communities and regions. This is not just some isolated group of individuals of terrorist operatives that can be eliminated in any way to ensure safety in the world. This is terror that has deep and historical social roots, and today, no politician in the entire Middle East, irrespective of their influence or authority, has found an effective solution to the complex problem of stopping this terror. I would even say, not a single politician in the modern world today. And it is abundantly clear that there may be a strong misconception that Israel's long-term security can, in fact, be ensured through various agreements with Iran. But if we assume that the Iranian regime, which has historically been resistant to change, will actually change its approach to the region's complex and multifaceted problems, or transform itself under the immense pressure of both political and economic circumstances, then we might face the collapse of another deeply held illusion and come to the stark realization that the Palestinian issue exists independently and on its own, unaffected by these changes. However, the reformatting of the Iranian regime is still indeed very far off, and it is significantly unlikely that one should dwell on the collapse of this illusion in the foreseeable future. It is best to talk about another illusion that former President Donald Trump, who served as the 45th President of the United States, seems to hold, and with which his supporters, who are often very vocal and passionate, seek to agree. The former President of the United States does not have a magic word that he could say to any of his interlocutors who are indeed actually interested in actually escalating the situation in the world and ultimately attacking the interests of the United States. In fact, interestingly, no war that we are currently witnessing will end with a phone call from Donald Trump, even if the former President of the United States does indeed, actually, in fact, return to the White House. Thank you, friends. Stay on this channel, subscribe to it, and help spread the word. Luck!